So we always have these like really big topics and such little time to speak about it, and people from different kinds of backgrounds. But what we're going to talk about tonight is actually really important. If you want to be happy, if you want to experience shelter, if you want to experience actual love, then this is indispensable. Before we speak, almost always I'm going to upset somebody, but that's not entirely my fault. We have this weakness or tendency to become very attached to things. A belief system, ideas, my outlook on life. And if somebody says something that is contrary to that, my initial reaction is usually to want to reject it. Because it's like, whoop. And that is rather unfortunate, because then it sometimes makes it difficult for us to hear things that we actually need to hear. So one of the things that inspired this talk, I saw on the TV, on the news, or after the news, that there's this new thing going on. It's called sologamy. Have you heard of that? You've heard of monogamy, right? This is sologamy, where people marry themselves. Seriously. And they had this ceremony. It was in Australia. It's a Kiwi lady that was, the officiant. And, after this little ceremony and things, then they hold up this heart-shaped mirror with angel wings on it to the person, and the person looks into it and declares their undying love for themselves. No, don't laugh. It's sad. It's sad that things have come this far. That now this is, this isn't acceptable. Like some people might not really approve or think that that's totally cool, but we've got to this level where we are not allowed to have an opinion about anything else. That if somebody is choosing a course of action determined by their desire and their mind, then I should embrace it. Not only embrace it, I should celebrate it. I'm sorry, that has really nothing to do with actual knowledge. That is the position of what's called avidya, or ignorance, unfortunately. So you can see why I'm not the popular guy. And people, it's like we've got to this situation where things, and the way things are going, things that are completely acceptable now and cool, 20 years ago would have been just like absolutely like shocking. And we like to think that our ability to embrace so many things is a sign of our enlightenment. Well, it may not be. We could be intoxicated. When you're intoxicated, you have an enormous ability to go along with anything. So our interest is actually in everyone's happiness. And I will make the bold declaration that if you go down the road of self-centeredness, it takes you away from the possibility of true happiness. You know, we talked quite some time back about self-love, and which was really what the sologamy thing was all about, this declaration of love to myself. That's kind of like become very strange, because in reality, love, when we speak about love in this way, love is a relationship. You can't have a relationship with yourself. You can't. You don't have a relationship with yourself. You can identify things about yourself. You can relate to your even material identity, but you can't have a relationship with yourself. And it wasn't very long ago that this was considered a type of mental, can I say disorder? Now you can't even say this kind of stuff. It's become so crazy that if a person, you know, starts talking to themselves and totally focused on themselves, they have, you know, such a person was often called narcissistic. What happened to that one? Is that unenlightened, if you use that word, or what? Now, the foundation of what I'm talking about, the living being, the spiritual being residing within the body, you, the very first covering of the living being, the spiritual being, this is called in Sanskrit ahankara. Ahankara refers to what is translated as the false ego. It's a little difficulty. We have some difficulty in English because a lot of the terms that people use in English have come from different places and they carry meanings with them. So from the older meaning of ego, which fundamentally refers to oneself, this is not a bad idea. This is a recognition of a reality. When one develops false ideas of who they are, then one must suffer because of that. So you've got this huge problem today with people, you know, trying to validate their worth and enhance their sense of who they are and their worthiness and all of these kind of things. And unfortunately, in doing it, people totally base it on your body image, what sort of condition or state your body is in. This is equated to your self-worth, is tied to this, because the body is considered to be the self. Whereas spiritually, we understand that is not the case. Doesn't matter what's going on with your body, doesn't matter what it looks like. That has nothing to do with your worth, your lovableness as a spiritual being. And to tie concepts or ideas of your worthiness and attractiveness and everything to your body, oh my God, this is crash and burn territory. It just leads to this really unhappy state, because the nature of this world is that over time your body will be ravaged by time. And what was young and strong and powerful and attractive or beautiful is going to completely degrade. And it's going to happen while you're occupying it, if you live long enough. It's going to get so bad you will not. It's like a return to babyhood. You started off urinating and defecating in your pants, right? Baby life, a diaper. And that's the way it ends up. You end up in that state too, completely unable to control your bodily functions if you get to hang around long enough. So the idea of really trying to tie your worthiness, your worth and your identity and everything to this passing show, this body, is just not very wise and will always lead to tremendous unhappiness. When I begin to assume, you know, I don't know if you remember the old Beatles song, I, Me, Mine. I, me, mine, right? That's kind of like the self, selfie, and selfish idea. When we get the first one wrong, the I wrong, who I actually am, if I get that wrong and I conclude that this body is who I am, then the me is displayed in the selfie. Is it not? Everybody's trying to look a certain way. Everybody's trying to present a certain image. Everybody tries. I can still remember this. I had this experience. I was on a plane one time, and behind me were a group, 4 or 5 young women. And they were really cheerful and nice, and they were very pleasant and everything, and they'd been on a holiday. And then they were discussing photos. This was before smartphones. And this girl had a big stack of photos, and she's sorting through it, trying to look for the best picture of herself. And they were having discussions about it and everything, you know, and you see this with the selfie thing. Just by chance, you're going to take a picture that doesn't even actually look like you, and it came out like really cool. And then all of a sudden that becomes the image that's going to be on your profile. That's like some extraordinary, by chance, you just got you looked really cool. But the rest of the 99 of them, out of the 100, you just wouldn't want it on your profile. And so we end up in this situation then of really this is our interface with the world. But rather than seeing it as an interface, if I just see it as being me, then how it is going to look and how it's going to behave and how it's going to perform and how all these things, how it's going to smell, all of these things, you know, become who I think I am. And then being completely absorbed in this world, I am just constantly looking for things that I can lay claim to, whether it's a husband or wife or partner, children, possessions, experiences, relationships, acknowledgement of some achievement. Or I'm looking for all these things that I can pull in around me and lay claim to, where I can try to build this like little world, this little kingdom that I seek to dominate and I seek to be the center of. When we talk about this false ego, this ahankara, it is not only the false idea that this body is me, but this false idea that I am the center of everything. This is it's going to be devastating for us to be really absorbed in this idea and to be clinging to it. And then the more we get into that, the more we are unable to really relate to be compassionate for, caring and loving for other beings. The more I'm into myself, and myself is the center of everything, the less ability I have to feel compassion. I've mentioned a few times that we do this meditation program at the maximum security prison, and it's just fantastic, and it's going really well. And I talk to these guys about, we've got major sex offenders, like the kind of stuff that would just make your skin crawl, where people that have committed violent crime and killed others. You know, there is this commonality in all criminal activity. There is a commonality in all violence that is perpetrated on others. That commonality is, I am so absorbed in myself, and not even my true self. I'm so self-absorbed, I don't give a shit what anybody else is going through. If I want that money, I'm taking it. I don't care if I gotta beat that person up, some woman in a dairy, punch their lights out. I don't care whether if I'm a sexual offender. I can't even relate. I don't feel any empathy for victims because I've become so intensely self-centered and selfish. So one of the reasons I speak quite strongly against this wave of things that's sweeping over the world through social media, this self-obsession, is because it's really dangerous. Number one, it leads to very dark places. And one of those dark places is depression. In a state of deep depression, you cannot even identify with anybody around you and anything. You are locked in this deep, dark place where it's only you. If you commit, one sec.
Can I just say though, that if a child is really badly wounded as a little child, then they don't leave that emotional state. They stay every child is egocentric. I'm just saying, I understand totally what you're saying, but I also have compassion for these people because.
Well, I mean, what I'm proposing is a solution. Yes. You know, I totally. I mean, the amount of unnecessary pain and suffering, it breaks my heart. But if we are going to address it, there is some need to be able to actually identify what's at the heart of things. It's not a chemical imbalance in the brain. A chemical imbalance may result. You know, your body and your thinking things that you physically go through or mentally go through can cause all types of things. Hormonal reactions, chemical reactions in the body that begin to affect the brain. But what I'm saying, at the heart of everything lies this problem that really people need to address. So we're kind of running out of time. Is this interesting? It's a pretty interesting topic. It's a really valuable topic, and I think that maybe early in the new year we should try and do a maybe half-day retreat or something, yeah, or one-day retreat, and invite people so we can spend a bit of time, you know, really talking about these things and exploring what are real solutions. Because the more we understand and the more that we are growing spiritually, not only does our life transform and change, but we now develop a capacity to touch the lives of others. I'll give you one example. 2 weeks ago in the prison, one guy was talking to me after the class about how he had made up his mind to commit suicide. He was just so over his life and all the sadness, and he's been in prison for like 25 years, and he was, he was going to kill himself. And of course, this was a subject that we do address. This whole idea that you're going to solve any of your problems by suicide is the biggest mistake that you can make. Killing your body does not remove your problem, nor does it kill you. You are eternal. You continue to live, and you bring your baggage with you. So anybody that's ever thought of this is a big mistake to think this is a solution. So he had made up his mind, and he was going to do it in this certain place. It was quiet, and he was going to go there, and he noticed another guy in their block. There's like 60 people in their block, and the guy was going through hardship also and difficulty. And he was in that place at the time that he was going to go there and commit suicide. This other guy was there, and that guy was getting ready to also kill himself, commit suicide. And he was struck by that, and he started to reach out to the guy. He felt sorry for him and started. So I asked him, so what happened to your plan then? And he hadn't thought about it. The mere fact of reaching out to someone else, the mere fact of trying to be helpful or kind to someone is a tremendous tool for taking you out of any selfish condition that is leading to your unhappiness, your sadness. It is a fact that you are born to serve, if I can put it that way. It is part of your spiritual nature to serve. We derive pleasure by showing kindness, helping a child, an old person, a partner, a friend, even somebody we don't know. If we volunteer and do something kind for someone, it deeply affects us, and we feel a tremendous taste of joyfulness and lightness of heart. And that is because we are actually getting in touch with our true spiritual nature. Selfishness is as far away as you can get from your spiritual nature. This is the epitome of the material condition. It is ignorant. It is a place of suffering. It is a place of great pain. When we become more selfless, we learn to be more caring and sharing. And to do things, even if it's difficult for us, even if it's not, we don't feel, okay, I've never done anything like this before. Just going out of your way to try and show kindness and to help someone instantly awakens something in you. Something actually very noble, and something that is the beginning of a spiritual experience. So I am deeply troubled and saddened by the tendency of the world now to be going more, with these ridiculous things. The more time they spend on social media, the more they lose their ability to communicate and actually deal. There was one psychologist, I was watching a thing, and he was saying it's become so bad. He said, like a normal conversation, when you're communicating with someone and talking, minimum 65% of your time while communicating, you'll be looking at the other person's face. That's a normal conversation. He said people that become users of these things, especially with social media, even if you're sitting in front of them and talking, it's about 15% of the time they will actually look at the person they're talking to. And it's like, whoa. I'm kind of surprised they're studying this and keeping records and timing it. But this is a symptom of things. Okay? So apart from what we normally do, which is the meditation practices of a course, they bring gradual enlightenment. But you can really help things along by trying to avoid types of thinking, types of action, types of speech that drags you into this selfish world that is actually filled with ignorance and pain. And by learning to become more open and thoughtful and actually engaging with people can accelerate your spiritual growth and your spiritual awakening. Okay? So that's all I got to say tonight.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Like as you said that it's in our nature that when we take care of someone else or we serve someone else, we feel happy.
Yeah.
Right? And like, is it not selfishness?
Well, it's not pure. It's not until a person comes to a purely spiritual condition that their service will be unmotivated and pure. But even if there is some selfishness, like for instance, even the idea, it's the transcendentalists, the great yogis, would feel sad that someone pays special attention to their own children and can completely neglect other children that may be in need. Why don't you feel the same for all? And it's because I see this person in relation to me, my child, and whereas that's not my child. And so it's not that our attempts to serve and things, they don't have to be pure in order for them to benefit us and to assist in our spiritual awakening. Okay? Thank you very much. Haribol.